Welcome to the Publishing Life podcast, and today's episode is an interview, but it's very different than any interview we've done before. Usually we'll do the publishing success stories of students, and those are great, and we'll continue to do many of those, but this interview is different from that. So today's guest is Nate Baker, who is a retired Special Forces Master Sergeant who, lucky for us, has joined our program, Audiobook Income Academy, and he's now a student of ours. So in this interview, Nate tells stories from his time in training and how rigorous that was, and he tells stories from his time in Iraq in open gunfire, where he seems to have come close to death many times, and he shares how those experiences has shaped his mindset and his mental strength today, now going into his new publishing business. And when you hear him talk, Nate is someone that I know with certainty is going to find great success in the publishing business because he's not going to stop until he gets there. And I think that's the missing link for a lot of people. No matter what you pursue, it's going to take time. You're not going to get it right the first time. And Nate understands that. Now, without further ado, let's get into the interview. It's hosted by the head coach of Publishing Life and Audiobook Income Academy, Dan Locke. He's been on the podcast before. So without further ado, enjoy.
So, hello, everybody. This is Daniel. I'm the AIA coach, head of coaching at AIA, and I'm joined today with Nate Baker. Nate is a student on the course and somebody who I've got enormous respect for lots of reasons that are going to become clear today. So, hi, Nate. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to this conversation, I have to say. So let's kick this off, Nate. Why don't you start and tell everybody, or tell the story about how you ended up on AIA and how we ended up talking, how we got started, and then we'll go from there, because this is one of the I love this story. Go for it.
Okay. So, a brief bit of history. So I retired from the military after 22 years in Special Forces in 2015. And I was in a series of part-time jobs that I found extremely easy and annoying for working with other people, because all of my results were based on other people's, ideas and their goals for my life. And my wife is a rather successful executive at a major company in the United States. And every time she would have to move, I would have to find a new part-time job and start all over again, which I was fine with because she followed me around for 22 years and was locked into the same place forever and supported me. So I was supporting her on her journey, but it just kept being like the same thing over and over again. And I recently started a new contracting job where I'm at now for the U.S. military, teaching what I had done for 22 years. And it just, it didn't have the same appeal because it wasn't at the same level. Yeah. And I was a contractor, I was an outsider, and I was on a break from that contract from around Christmas time, when the trainees went on a Christmas break, to about March. So I was tooling around YouTube, trying to find ways like I can do something for myself, and up pops the twins videos. And I'm like, man, this is like a really neat concept. Like, this is obviously a valuable business model. And if these guys can do it, I know I can do it, because they're just good salesmen. So the sales pitch, I ended up watching, I was watching some Tony Robbins thing or something, and their video popped up, and I just found myself entranced and watching for the entire hour, and then watched the 2-hour webinar. And then I sat there, I'm like, man, that's a lot of money. But I sat overnight, I thought about it all night. And then the next morning, I'm like, you know what, screw it, I'm in. So I joined on February 3rd this year and started watching the week 1 videos, and was like, oh, mindset, that's pretty cool. Like, I think I've got that down from my background. So
yeah, I'd say so.
And then and then I started getting into sleek and I was getting frustrated, and I had a time window. So I was trying to rush it. I did the same mistake every new guy does. I try to rush it. I try to not follow the course exactly. So I'm like, well, hey, if they did it and I've got this background, then I should obviously be able to do it better than them. Like the same story you posted.
Yeah,
for the twins.
It's exactly the same for me as well.
Yeah. So then I went ahead and did some things, and I started getting to a point where I had a GPW book out.
That's a
And I had,
guaranteed profits workshop.
yeah, Guaranteed
Yep.
Profits Workshop book out. And I had two of the longer 30,000 word books in production,
Yep.
which weren't really niches that I was in love with, but they showed some profit. So I was checking them out, and I just, the passion wasn't there for those books. So I ended up actually producing my Guaranteed Profits Workshop book because it's something I liked and it's something I could get into and get behind, and putting that on actually just about a month and a half ago. So, and during that process, I ended up finally come to a wall where I realized, like, man, I should have been talking to somebody who knows what the hell is going on, because all this stuff's coming up. And like, as I'm watching the lessons, I'm like, well, that would have been a really good idea to do when I launched this book. And that would have been a really good idea to do
Yeah.
when I launched this book.
Yeah.
So then I just, I keep following the Facebook page. I listen to the Q&A calls, and I had identified through your story, I'm like, it sounds like the exact same story I got. So let me just give it a shot and reach out to Daniel Locke and see if the Lord of Publishing, one of the Lord of Publishings himself actually responds. And sure enough, like the next day you wrote me back and was like, oh yeah, let's get together on a call and talk about it. So that's where we
Yeah.
first met, I guess.
That's right. Yeah. And we hit it off straight away. I was super intrigued by obviously your background and some of the places you've ended up working in the world. And before my life started in publishing, I worked as a security contractor as well, and I was in some of those same places. And I think we think alike, and we have a similar view on the world. Have probably had some very similar experiences. So that instant connection was there, which was nice, because that's not something I've experienced just yet in publishing. So it's nice to have you around, Nate. It's good to have a
and that's what drew me to you personally, because like all of your answers to me, I was like, well, this guy doesn't put up with any shit. Like, he just tells you how it is. So that's what I need.
Yeah.
That's what I like. That's what I'm used to. So
yeah, same.
I'm going to see what he has to say. So
all the people I've ever respected, all the people I've ever listened to, all the people I've followed, and all the people who've led me well were exactly the same. They just say it how it is, and how you take it is up to you. But it is what it is. Suck it up, get on with it. And I've always responded well to that. So that's generally how I do it. I've tried to be a bit more tactful, but I'm just slowly slipping back into the way that I've always been now. And I think it's going down really well. So I'm just going to carry on doing that.
I enjoy it. So keep doing it.
Good. Well, if you enjoy it, that makes me happy. That's great. So a lot of the coaching calls I've done since I've been a coach now, and it's coming up to sort of 6 months, and I've done hundreds and hundreds of calls, and I speak to people about all sorts of problems they've got in their publishing journey. And there's lots of things, but there's one current theme that comes up more than most. And people get stuck on one process or another, or they might be trying to hire a ghostwriter, or they might be dealing with a graphic designer, or it might be some hiccup or problem. But the underlying problem that most people have is one that they're not aware that they've got, and that's mindset. And this is something I know from your background, that you get hammered real quickly, real soon in your early days in your training, to get your mindset straight and to program you that you can achieve anything if you put yourself to it and you work hard enough and you don't quit. But a lot of people in this world have never had that, any kind of training like that. And they have fears and concerns and doubts that they don't know that they have. They manifest as something slightly different. And some people are as extreme to think that everything they see and read is a scam. But it's all mindset. And one of the biggest things that I try and do is try and get people to adjust their mindset so that they can tackle all these problems. And when they look at them in a particular way, they're not really a problem at all. In some cases, they're even an opportunity. So that's the underlying thing that I come across the most, that I wanted to talk to you about. And our colleague Ollie Al Gore, I work with quite closely, he said that if you're struggling to reach 10K a month in your publishing business, then you don't have business problems. You have personal problems that are manifesting themselves in your business. And I think that's so true. Once you get yourself to getting 10K a month from your publishing business, then you can start worrying about business problems. But up until then, if you're really having trouble getting to that 10K, it's a personal issue. It's a mindset issue, because it will come if you don't quit and you follow the training. So I wanted to sort of tap into some of your background experience. I know when I was a soldier myself when I was very young. I remember the recruit training, and I remember how much they beast you. They beat, I say beasting is a British term, but when they really rinse you, they give you a hard time. It's all part of that training. It's all part of that mindset training. So perhaps you can tell us a little bit about your basic training and your selection process getting into special forces, and how mindset helped you and how you can apply that to publishing.
Yeah. So skipping all the fluffy growing up as a boy stuff. I grew up on a farm. I grew up on a farm. So, I mean, it comes from that work ethic of like, it really didn't matter what the weather was or what was going on. The animals still need to be fed or they die, and that's your livelihood.
Right.
Or chores need to be done. It doesn't matter what the weather is or anything. There's no excuses because lives are at stake, literally. Like the animals' lives are at stake. Your life is at stake because everything you have is in the ground and on the field. So, but I was a farm boy who went to join the army. And actually, I had originally joined the army just to get money to go to college. And I was offered like an airborne ranger, high speed contract. I'm like, oh, that sounds really hard. Like, there's no way I want to go through all that. So I joined for regular infantry for 2 years, get $20,000 for college. And I was like, okay. And then I got into it. I'm like, well, this is pretty easy. Like, there's got to be something more than this, because I was still having fun. So I re-enlisted for airborne school, and I ended up in the 82nd Airborne Division. And then there I was in a reconnaissance unit, and I was encouraged to go to Ranger School. So I actually went to pre-Ranger training in 10th Mountain Division, but I was refused entry to the training because I wasn't a high enough rank at the time. At the time, they had some stipulation that, so I had passed the course, and then they're like, no, you still can't go. So I left there. I went to the 82nd. I went to pre-Ranger again. The first time I went to pre-Ranger to start that training, because they want to make sure you're ready to do the training. When they send you down, they don't waste money. I didn't pass it because they make you run in boots at the end. I failed the run. They smoke you for like 2 hours before you start running. And this 5 mile run at the end, you have to stay within an arm length of the guy in front of you. And you have to do all this yelling and cadence calls and everything, which takes away your oxygen as well. So I just didn't make the run. And I was like, okay, well, I have to do better next time. So I had failed that. And then I went back 3 months later, had trained up, tried to be better. And I finally passed the pre-Ranger that second time, and then went to Ranger School. And kind of the moral of the story of that one was like, I could have, that first time I failed and wasn't selected to go, I could have said, well, I'm just not going to worry about it anymore because I passed and I wasn't good enough to go. They still wouldn't send me. And then the second time when I failed, I could have said, well, they made me run in boots and they smoked me for 2 hours ahead of time. This is crazy. Nobody's going to do it. But I went back and I'm like, it's my problem. I wasn't ready to go. So they showed me that, and now I'm ready to go. So then I go to Ranger School, and the training was good because I ended up passing the first time, 62 days straight. Ended up losing like 30 pounds or something.
Oh, wow.
You could see the veins in my ribs on the last day. I was
Oh
kind
my
of
God.
crying, looking at myself in the mirror. I looked like a POW or something,
Crikey.
but the whole time, I mean, everything is all mindset related. So they make you do one obstacle course in the Ranger course. It's called the Derby Queen, and they use it as part of the best Ranger competition that they do every April for the U.S. Army. And the two teams compete to see who does shooting and jumping out of airplanes and land navigation and obstacle courses and everything. So, I mean, that's like a 3-day process where they test your mettle to do that stuff. And I was actually training for that after I was in special forces when I broke my leg fast roping in Mosul onto a house for a mission. So I ended up stop training doing that. But after I finished Ranger School, I was figured, well, that's hard enough. You know, I've done enough hard stuff. And then 6 months later, I'm sitting around with a bunch of guys and we're talking about it. We're like, well, we might as well go to selection because we're on Fort Bragg, North Carolina. That's where the Special Forces selection takes place. So we'll just sign up and go to that. So we went to it, and I mean, it's hard, but you know, at least I had other people to talk to. And one of the things that always stuck out in my mind is, like I've talked to you about before, is the obstacle course. Because in Special Forces selection, they don't yell at you like Ranger School. They don't yell at you like basic training, or you see in, you know, like Full Metal Jacket, you know, the movie and everything. There's no yelling or anything. It's really just They write information on a whiteboard in the middle of a courtyard, and it's your job, your responsibility to go read when the next formation is, what the uniform is, and what the event is. So you just sit there and you wait, and you have people go check the board, and then you show up at the right time and you go and you do that event, and they never yell at you or anything. They're just kind of watching and taking notes. And you'll get, at one time it'll be a run where you show up and everybody's in PT uniform, and they start it with, your goal is to run an unknown distance for an unknown time. There is a standard, follow the cones, go. And you don't know how it's going to be. A mile run? Is it going to be a 5-mile run? Is it going to be a 10-mile run? You don't know. You just keep running. And there's people all along the station, so you can't really prepare for it. You just have to be like, well, do I want to pace myself because it's going to be a 10-mile run, or do I run full out because it's only a mile run? But so there's always that uncertainty about what the event actually is. The same thing for road marches. And then once you pass that first week with the log PT, which is lifting as a team with a log for hours on end, it's probably about 8 hours, I think.
Wow.
And most people quit by then, because you see people just like, and they take themselves out of it. They voluntarily withdraw, and they have the excuse, oh, I just didn't want to deploy, so I came to selection, and I didn't want to go. And I mean, you physically can't do something, you just keep going, but that's what they're watching for. So the same thing happened to me after that first week with all the PT events, and you take tests all night and you can't go to sleep. And we did the obstacle course. So the Special Forces obstacle course is called the Nasty Nick. It's named after Colonel Nick Rowe from Vietnam era. And it's longer, like 3 times longer than the Derby Queen. The obstacles, there's some big ones, there's some smaller ones. But I remember distinctly that I was roster number 11. So they run in roster number order. So I'm like, oh, there's like 10 guys in front of me. That's cool. But every time you get to an obstacle and you can't pass it, all they say is, candidate, you've failed to negotiate this obstacle. Would you like to try it again? They don't yell at you. They don't do anything. But when you get to the obstacles and somebody else is going over it, you have time, you just jog in place and you can kind of rest a little bit. So I start running this obstacle course, and I'm passing people, waiting after a while. And then I get like 10 obstacles in, and there's nobody else in front of me anymore because they had failed to negotiate the obstacle. And I ended up I'm the first one now. So I'm just running and doing all these obstacles one after the other, no time to rest. I'd get to one, and you don't want to like hesitate, because then you show fear and all this other stuff. You're being judged the whole time. They're just sitting there with a notebook. So I just hit every obstacle. I get to the last obstacle, and it's these large monkey bars where you're over a mud pit, and they're about as big as half of a log, probably 6 inches, and they turn. So I'm trying to grip them, and I'm just smoked at this point. I get like 3 rungs in and down. I'm in the mud.
Oh man.
And they're
So
like,
it's
hey,
it's just grip strength. You just need
yeah,
grip in your fingers, and
like
you're
I couldn't,
wet and
I couldn't physically
Oh my
do it
God.
anymore because my
Wow.
hands were shaking. I
Yeah.
can really feel my hands,
Yeah.
but I'm like, I'm not going to quit and show like that I want to quit or anything. And they give you an opportunity. Like all they're doing is they're providing an easy excuse for you to quit. So a lot of people get to the point of physical exhaustion and mental exhaustion, and they take that option. So I just didn't take that option. And I think I kept hitting that obstacle. I did it for probably 30 minutes where the guy would just keep saying, candidate, you've failed to negotiate this obstacle. Would you like to try again? I'm like, well, I'm going to fucking fail because I have not gotten over this damn obstacle. And people were coming and passing me and doing it, but they had time to rest it. And like, this is 20 minutes later. So they had time to rest. So they were going over it and passing. I'm like, well, obviously it should be able to be passed because I'm going to get knocked for passing it. After about 20 minutes, he's like, candidate, get off my obstacle, continue the thing. So I finished and I went in thinking, great, I'm a freaking failure. I'm waiting for them to tell me I can, like, they won't tell you that you didn't make it. There's guys that'll go 21 days. They call them 21-day non-selects, where you do the entire thing. And then they'll just have a formation at the end and put you in one formation, put somebody else in another formation, and they'll tell that formation, you did not make it. You're welcome to come back and try again next time. Wow. And then the other guys file in and they assign you MOSs and what your job is going to be.
Yeah.
And that's when you get when you finally pass all of that, because there's a whole gamut of other exercises after that, where there's a team week, which is unbelievable obstacles that you don't think are possible, that it just is. I mean, people continually fall out. I think about 400 people started in my class, and there was about 102 or so that were there the last day. And of those, probably 60 of them got selected, and the other 40 something were non-select.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to be one of the ones that was selected. And then they said, okay, congratulations, you haven't earned anything except for the chance to try. I'm like, what? Like all this, like you get to start the qualification course, which is 2 years of a different kind of skill set learning hell. But anyway, I mean, the focus there, they're not really testing your strength. Everybody thinks it's the big guy who wins. It's the big, strong guys who's been training, and you got to be physically fit, and that helps. But really what they're testing is mindset, because what that leads into, say, fast forward till like 2003.
Yeah.
I was ambushed in Tikrit with my team. We were separated, and, so our interpreter was shot.
So this is just so that people know that Tikrit is in Iraq.
Yeah, that was Iraq in 2003.
Yeah,
probably right after we got there. And so we were ambushed on this little market area in Tikrit, Iraq, by 3 guys with AK-47s. 2 of the team guys that were with me had just come back from recovery and rest, and one of them went to see his baby born. So he came back. So they were new, didn't know the layout of the neighborhood. I was kind of navigating, and I told them, stay in place, guard the trucks. I'm going to go in and grab some chairs, because we were grabbing some chairs from the market to take to this tea shop so we could build rapport with them and start talking to them about what's going on in the city. And while I'm in there, I hear popcorn, exactly what it sounded like. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I look out there, and there's 3 guys with AKs just spraying down the vehicles. And by the time, I didn't even know what happened, but training took over. I reacted. All I had with me was my pistol, my 9mm pistol.
Oh, really?
And they're probably 25 meters away. And I'm sitting there, and all I'm thinking is front sight post bang, just every fundamental of marksmanship for pistols that I've been taught. And it just kicked in, and I started seeing them drop one at a time. So I hit 2 of them, and the third one, the other guy was kind of wounded, and started dragging him off to the car. And then I'm like, okay, I got to go get my rifle out of the truck. So I went to my rifle, and I went to pull it out, and I said, okay, let's go get them. They're in the alleyway. They're headed this way. And then everybody's like, I'm shot. And one of my friends, Ethan, was in the back seat, and he was hit through both femoral arteries, was bleeding all over the place. And our warrant officer was hit 4 times in the shoulder, the butt, the leg, all kinds of stuff. So now I'm sitting here I could get them if they just come with me. Like, I just need to go, but I'm like, okay, now I got to change focus. So I made a radio call to everybody else and got the rest of the team moving out to our location.
Yep.
And the whole time, the other guy who was pulling security, I couldn't find him. He's dead now, but he had gotten hidden somewhere. Like, I'm like, what is going on? So he tried to put one of the injured guys. I tried to consolidate everybody on one truck.
Yep.
And there was just a myriad of obstacles going on. Sure. One truck was entirely fuel going everywhere, water going everywhere, wasn't running, tires blown out.
These are soft skin vehicles, right?
Yeah, they were Toyota Hiluxes.
Okay, right.
Not Humvees or anything like that.
No, low profile.
Yeah, we were doing low visual stuff. So I put everybody in the bed of the truck. I told the other guy who wasn't shot, and we rolled over the dead interpreter, and I threw one guy on top of him, and we get in the truck. I'm like, drive to the birthday palace. There's a famous palace where Saddam was shooting his rifle off on his birthday. Everybody called it the birthday palace. And there was a unit stationed there. So we ran. He was driving the whole time. My friend's in the back seat, and he's bleeding all over me. So I shoved my hand into his leg and tried to grab his femoral artery, put a towel around my hand and put my knee down on it, and just he's screaming at me like, oh, my leg hurts. Or my left leg hurts. I'm like, well, your right whole leg has got a hole in it the size of my head. So just hang on. But it's that no nonsense. Like, there's no bedside manner. Like, that's the situation you have to deal with. And So we made it to the birthday palace. Everything's fine. Both of them lived. But so that's just one situation where at any point in that, three guys with AK-47s, I've only got a pistol. Maybe I should just hide in here. But those are my friends out there. So I've got to do something about it. And it's that never quit. Like even the guys that were shot were trying to crawl to get their pistols to make stuff happen. And that doesn't come from, years and years of that. You're not born with it. It comes from that whole selection process. What they're looking for is people that can conquer, that have the mindset to not quit, not in any circumstance.
Right.
So that's basically what it is. And fast forward again to 2007, I was clearing a terrorist training camp in northern Iraq around the city of Mosul, and I got shot. And there was new guys on the team who were there, and I had been shot in the leg and had tried to take a step, and my whole leg went out from under me because it hit my bone. And I'm just sitting there waiting for the guy to come over the wall with my gun. And they come up, the new guys, and some of them were, it's their first action they've seen. So they're kind of nervous and upset. And it's probably my fourth or fifth time dealing with similar situations. And they just stopped and like tried to focus on me. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, there's buildings to be cleared. People need to die. Like, there's all kinds of things that need to happen. Like, don't stop, keep going. Like, I'll be fine. I tried to put on my own tourniquet. That wasn't working. But then when the medic finally showed up, nobody was still pulling security. And so I rolled over. I'm like, I handed my grenade belt to a bunch of people. I'm like, here's my grenades. Start using that because we have to clear this objective. It's just that linear focus of getting things done.
Yeah.
Like certain things have to happen in order for us to survive this. And they're stopping to focus on me. But, even guys who've been through all this training run into obstacles where they think it's too much and they can't go on. And so I was able to inspire them to keep going. We cleared the objective. Everybody lived except for the bad guys.
Yeah.
And then we came back. So that's kind of relatable, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, it's absolutely relatable. The underlying thing there is that you have the training, you have the mindset, you don't quit, and then you succeed. Now, I know a lot of people are probably listening to going, it's a bit of a stretch from there to Crit and to Mosul to AIA Publishing, but it's the formula, isn't it?
Yeah, in my mind, it is exactly the same thing. Like I've never been more excited about anything since I was, over there shooting.
Now you see, that's really interesting to me. So you're as excited about what we do now as you were when you were over there doing everything you were born to do. Is that correct?
Correct. Because it's not the task.
Right.
It's the ability. I mean, everything is your personal responsibility. If you're a success or a failure, there's no one else to depend on, no one else to blame except for you. So if I fail at this, it's my fault. I know I can get better. Like I've failed. I mean, hiring ghostwriters, the urban writers is backed up. Oh, I can't use them. I got to find somebody else. So I went out and found like somebody had mentioned, they're like, just Google. So I'm Googling ghostwriters and trying out all these different places. I'm like, I don't need this. There's Upwork. I haven't tackled that yet, but I've started to do some stuff on Fiverr. And there's just so many. I mean, the bottom line is the obstacle gets placed in front of you. What are you going to do? Like I reached that point probably week 2, sleek. Everybody does. You're like, you're like, I've been sleeking for 4 weeks and I still don't feel like I got anything. Like I don't understand it. And that was right before
that guy's voice on the assault course saying candidate.
Yeah, that's when I'm like, I'm hearing that all the time. Like every day something doesn't go my way. I'm like, candidate, you've failed to negotiate this obstacle. Would you like to try again? And I'm like,
brilliant.
I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So it's the same fire that I got from that. Like, oh, you thought I failed. Well, that ain't gonna stand.
Check again.
Like we're gonna try again because this shit's gonna get real. Like,
yeah.
So that's why
that's tremendous. I mean, that's why I'm like, it's so true. It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it, the publishing industry is in trouble because like I've got 22 years of living that mindset, and publishing is just a skill. It can be anything else. It could be pistol shooting, it could be rifle shooting, which I'm really good at too. But like I've been able to master those skills. Once I master this skill with my mindset, I think you guys are in trouble. So
I hope so. I want to
yeah.
see that. I want to see that, and I want everybody else to think and feel the same way. The only thing getting in anybody's way is themselves. When you break it
Yeah.
down, that's the only thing that will stop you being successful at publishing is yourself. It's not your damn writer. It's not your proofreading. It's not your cover. It's your mindset. It's you. You are responsible for your success. You are responsible for if you publish a book and it's a successful book. If you cut corners, if you rush ahead, guess what? You're going to fail. And
Yeah.
people just quit. People quit all the time. People quit before they should.
I
They think
mean,
they're at
I
their
mean,
limit. They're not, but they don't know.
the point, I mean, also you don't really fail. So I've got that guaranteed profit workshop book out there. And
Right.
as I told you earlier, I'm like, I just want one sale a day. Every day since then that we've talked, I've had 1 or 2 paperback sales or
That's
1 or
fantastic.
2 ebook sales.
Great.
And I'm like, that's not even a good book. Like, I mean, it's better because I focused on quality and I
Yeah.
tried to follow those pieces. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm going to try quality. Like, I don't think it's written well because I wrote it myself, kind of.
Yeah.
I'm like, imagine if I just did this. Like, I've learned so much just in the process of failing and finally getting some experience of, and that's what it is. Like, comes down to another relatable task is, so I spent the last probably 4.5 years in going to other countries and doing what we call foreign internal defense, teaching their armies how to, do marksmanship and anti-terrorism training. So most of those countries, in some country in Africa, don't get but like 4 rounds to shoot a year. So they're afraid of their gun. That's the first thing you have to do, is get them to conquer their fear before they're even trainable. So that's the way I looked at my guaranteed profit workshop book. Is I just have to get some rounds down range, not be afraid of the process, not be afraid of my gun, and then I can worry about learning how to use it. So I knew that was not going to be my best book. I didn't think I was going to, get a $2,500 a month book the first time. I don't even think I'm going to get one for probably a year, because I didn't pick a very profitable niche, but I don't care because I'm passionate about it.
Yep.
And
good.
As I'm building an audience, like, now that I've got the concept down, I'm like, I'm going to have a moat. I'm going to have a fence. I'm going to have, spotlights. Like, I know how to make a good defense. I'm going to build the best audience, because all the people that are really, really profitable in my niche have a huge audience. And I'm like, they don't know what's coming for them because I've got their number now.
Yeah.
Like I look at them, I look at them like targets on the wall. I literally bought the target books that I'm going for, and I have them sitting in my office, and I just put a target on them on the front cover.
Yeah.
Because that's a daily reminder. Like, that's who you're going after. Like, they're not sleeping. It's kind of like the.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember that. It's whilst you're sleeping, the enemy's working.
Yeah.
And they're getting closer and closer and closer.
That one scene from Platoon where there's like, that's Mr. Nathaniel Victor. He doesn't care if it's raining. He doesn't care if it's sleeping. Yeah, he's going to be there while you're crying, training, getting better, and he's going to kill you. So that's the way I look at those books now. I'm like,
fantastic.
To me, it's exciting. It's totally exciting. And
it's just a whole new challenge, a different set of rules, but basically the fundamentals are the same. Ollie said something similar as well. He said, when you're in your niche and you're picking your target, you've got to focus on the next book above you, the one that's got more reviews than you. You get that many reviews, and then you've taken him out. And then it's the next book in the niche, the next one on the run on the ladder. How many reviews has that book got? Oh, it's got 210. Right, I need 210. I need 211. Because once you've achieved that, once you've got a quality book and you start getting the same reviews or same review numbers as the next book above you, you start taking their sales away from them. So they fall away, and you're getting more and more money. And every book you take down, you're getting more and more money. And the more money you get, the more sales you make, the more sales you get, the quicker the reviews come. I remember when I went into December with one of my books, it had 80 reviews. By the end of February, that book had 150 reviews. Today, it's got 280. And they're all organic, because it sold so many, the reviews just started coming in quicker and quicker and quicker, and it's just run off with itself now. I launched that book in August last year, and it's got 270 reviews, just all on its own, and it just gets faster and faster. And that's what you need. You need to get that traction going, because that book is slowly taking down other books all on its own. So that, that book in maybe a year's time could have 1,000 reviews, and books with 1,000 reviews make big bucks.
Yeah.
And
That's the way
you've just got to set it off. You've got to let it do its own thing, get it 100 reviews, and then let it go into the big wide world and do its own thing. And then you just start taking down that competition, and in your case, taking down the enemy, I suppose. But
yeah, I mean,
it's the concept. That's how it
that's
works.
what I feel is starting to happen with that little tiny book.
Yeah,
and
great.
I'm getting a feel for the way it works, because you emphasize how important the picture reviews were.
Yep.
So I've only got 19 reviews, but I've got 4 picture reviews
Fantastic.
and one video review, actually. So I mean, if those count for 10 each, I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, that's right.
And
that's
I
really
think
great.
that's what's selling them. One a day will become 2 a day, become 3 a day. I mean, it's not that popular a niche, but maybe 2 a day I'd be fine with. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my first brick in the wall. So
good. So your what book are you currently working on now? You don't have to give too much away, but you're working on a bigger and better and more qualified book right now. Or are
yeah.
you just
So
are you pushing hard to get the current books out and getting them reviewed and spending your energy on that?
I'm getting them processed to the point I'm not going to put them out until I'm ready to.
Yep.
Like, I want to focus back on the niche I'm in. So yeah, you're welcome to come in this niche if you like, because it's really not that profitable. If you sleek it, you're going to walk away first chance you get. So go for it. But
well, you're welcome to put your book name and your
Yeah.
author name out there. If anybody wants to check out your book, you're welcome to plug it here. That's absolutely fine. Get people on
Yeah.
your mailing list. You go for it.
So I decided not to go with my real name, because I'm
Yep.
going to save that once. My pen name is a practice.
Yep.
I look at it like I can practice with him for 3 years, and then I'll really nail it with my own name.
Yeah.
But
Good idea.
so I'm using Bradley Blake.
Bradley
Sounds really
Blake.
cool. And I did my GPW one is like family road trip planning guide, and my next one, like, they're god awful titles. Like,
but I
Camping
looked
with
at these
Kids.
books. I think they're pretty good. Like, they're not
Yeah.
bad books. You say they're not great, they're not very good, and all that. They're not bad. They're not bad by
Yeah.
any means.
I mean, I've tried to use everything I learned, but it's my first couple tries. So they're
Sure.
kind of wordy. It's kind of keyword stuffed. One of them, the first one, really. Camping with Kids, leave this weekend, take your kids camping, even if you've never set up a tent before. Like, it's a pretty long subtitle. It kind of gets the point across, but
yeah.
But that's the first 30,000 word book I'm doing in that niche. So we'll see how that goes.
Great. And you've got your lead magnet activated in there. It's all set up.
Yeah, I'm doing actually 6 low content Kickstarters that are using my pen name as well. And I put the lead magnet in all those. And actually, funny enough, so Nick Morrison's lessons on narrating your own book.
Yeah, good lesson.
I had to use that last night on my narrator. It's literally his first book that he's ever narrated. So he's asking all these questions, and it's nice to fall back on that lesson and feel like you're an expert when you're telling your narrator how to narrate your book. And he's asking you, oh, is this okay? Or is this? I'm like, well, you should really need to focus on this, space things out. Like, he's doing everything that I tell him to. And it's building his, studio of business or whatever, portfolio. So he's doing it cheap. And he is really good. Like, he's got a good audio setup. He's got good quality. There's no background noise. There's no smacking of the lips.
Yeah.
It's probably better than I sound right now. Like, it's great. And my wife has given me tips on how to make them better. Like, the questions, the content, like, okay, I can fix the content, and this guy can narrate the hell out of it. So this is going to be great.
Yeah. So, in terms of what you're going to be doing next, you're going to get out these more guaranteed profit workshop books, and then you're going to start slamming out the high quality, perfect 30K word books with your name on it. You're going to dominate that niche, take down all the competition, and that's the plan, right?
That's this year's plan.
Yeah, good.
So I want to do I have 3 other books in mind. I just have to get the outlines done for them.
Brilliant.
And those are the 30,000 word books. All by low content ones are just going to keep coming as I think of them.
Yep.
and they're all going to have lead magnets in them, and they're all going to try to be at least an hour and a half long.
Yep.
So I can bundle them and make another book and make it 3
Yep.
hours long. Basically everything you guys teach, but I'm trying to actually follow the lesson now. So I'm
Well,
seeing
good.
Until I got out there and I was struggling like a rat in a pool, trying to finally get exhausted and get drowned. I finally reached out to the coach, and you picked me up and put my head on straight. And now I'm doing what you tell me to.
I'm glad you reached out. I really am. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you, Nate. And so if there's anything any words of wisdom you would pass on to anybody who's thinking of getting to publishing, who's just joined publishing and they're feeling a bit overwhelmed because there's quite a lot to take in. And I think a lot of people get surprised by that. I think they're happy with the level of detail in the course, but I think sometimes they're surprised by how much they have to learn and how much work they have to do, which I get to a point, I get to a degree. Is there any advice you could give anyone?
So it's a lot of information, but there's a lot of information in anything you do, right?
Yeah.
So I think one of the former AIA coaches had mentioned, like, you spend 4 years in college learning everything you need to start learning at your job. The same thing when I was in Special Forces. I finished selection. I got the chance to start learning how to do my job. I spent 2 years in selection so I could start learning how to do my job on a team. And I spent 17 years on a team, getting to the point where I could teach other guys on the team. And I finally became a master of the skill set. Like, it's not I thought the same thing when I first came in. I'm like, okay, I was trying to knock everything out. By the time I got back to the contract, I'm like, then I don't have to go back and work at this contract job. I can do this all the time. And then I just like miserably failed because it wasn't working out. So reach out to the coaches. I think I actually read a story this morning on my Special Forces team group for Facebook, because now I'm on Facebook all over the place.
Good.
Half the time I'm doing audiobook exchanges, and the other half I'm checking AIA stuff and seeing who else needs help.
Yeah.
But there was a post on there. It's like in 1950s, I think it was Harvard or Yale, they did a study called the Hope Project or Hope Study, and they put a bunch of rats in a tub full of water and see how long they would swim. So the average they'd swim about 15 minutes or so, and then they'd start to feel like they were drowning, and they'd start to go down, and the researchers would reach in and lift them up and let them rest for a while. And then they put them back in, and they're like, how long are they going to go the second time? And they put them back in, and like 6 hours they lasted. And they're like, I think that just goes to show you that, hope can convince your body there's a lot more stuff it left in it. Like, you can do something. So if you need help, like my researcher reaching in to grab me, the rat, was actually reaching out to the coaches and booking a call and sitting down and being ready to listen and ready to learn and ready to observe everything.
Yeah.
So follow the course. When in doubt, if you get stuck, it doesn't matter how many coaching calls you think you got because you need this. Just reach out to somebody and ask a question on Facebook Messenger or whatever, because you're there to help, and everybody will help you. Even the guys that have been here 2 and 3 years have reached out and said they would help me do something.
That's good. So, great. Yeah.
It's a great community effort.
Yeah. No, it is a great community. I mean, there's nearly 10,000 in it now, and it's fantastic. Really busy, really engaging. Well, listen, Nate, thank you. Thank you for telling your story. Thank you for sharing with us. There's so much value there. I really hope people can resonate and understand the relationship between your background and what you do now, and why you're so happy to be doing what you're doing now, despite the fact that on the surface it seems so different, but fundamentally it's exactly the same. I think that's really quite a powerful message that, with the right mindset, the right tools, you can do anything.
Yeah.
So thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, the twins. Thank you, all the coaches. Thank you, everybody who's been doing it for a while and smack me upside the head and tell me the right way to do things. Keep the unfiltered criticism coming, because I live on that stuff.
I will. Just for you. All right, Nate, we're going to end the call now. Thank you very much.